Happy 2024 LinkedIn. It's Liam Redding, and today I have a video prepared where we're going to be discussing a really interesting use case around HubSpot quotes and line items and building some custom code to automatically delete a line item from a quote and a deal and then create a new line item and associate that line item with the deal and the quote, all while also unpublishing the quote in order to make the change and then republishing the quote. And all of that's going to be done through custom code and a couple fancy workflows. So this is a pretty high level video about HubSpot automation, and it will display a lot of techniques that I use regularly and some innovative, approaches to how you can use these tools at the highest level. So we're going to be reviewing just this sample demo that I've put together that shows how a real world use case could be executed inside of HubSpot. So in this example, we've created 4 test products. You could have a large library of products, but in this case, there was no need to do that. So we just created 4 to allow us to demo. One thing you'll notice that's broken about the architecture in HubSpot when it comes to products is that there's a disconnect. Even though they're correlated, they're related, there's a disconnect between a product and a line item. And they're pretty much a one-to-one match, but essentially a line item is just taking that product and then creating it as a record in association to, in this example, like a quote and a deal, or in most examples. One of the things you'll notice is that when you go to add price into a product, you cannot specify a discount. And I think that's just one thing that's broken with the product architecture, or just like the data that's available, is that it doesn't allow you to add a discount. So we're going to go over in this video also how to add a discount through custom code, which you could do it manually. If you were to go to a deal record and add a line item, you would manually be able to input a discount as well, but you can also do it through custom code. So we've created these 4 test products, and we now have this separate workflow. And this workflow would be triggered by a property that we've added on the deal's left sidebar. So if you go to this deal, you can see the last test that I ran where I updated it to product 2. Essentially, the idea of this property, and it might not work for every instance, and you could get creative in your approach to make sure it's tailored to your specific use case. But in this example, we have introduced a new property, and the sales team or the support team, whoever's issuing these quotes, can go in, easily update that dropdown to select a new product, and then that will automatically run all the automation through the custom code to change the line item out from whatever it is into the new line item. And in that example, you would be considering that a deal or a quote would only ever have one line item at a time. You could also adjust this code to maybe pull an array of line items, delete all of those line items, and then add an array of line items back, maybe on a multi-select checkbox or something like that. There's a lot that you could do with custom code, but this is just one example or one execution of that. So they would be updating this property, and when they update the property, it triggers this workflow. Now this has re-enrollment, and so does the custom code workflow. So as many times as this property becomes updated, the deal would come back through the flow again. So once that property is marked, let's say it was marked from product 2 to product 3, that means it needs to clear out all the associations for the second product and then add in the association for the third product. So the workflow essentially branches based on what the what input was provided, whether it was product 1, 2, 3, 4, or none met. Should be any of the products though if it's known. And then essentially what it's doing is it's providing the product ID, or it's setting the property value for product ID, which is a custom deal property that we introduced. And you can grab that here as any of the record IDs for those products. And the reason why that's important is because in the custom code, it has to pull that record ID in order to create the line item based on the data that's stored in that product record. So they are connected in a way, but they're 2 different things in terms of the architecture. And then we would be setting the discount value. So you could set this to whatever it may be, but it allows you to automate appending a discount onto the total value of whatever that is. So for this example, product 1 gets a 50, 2 gets 100, 150, and then 200. So we then have populated those two values, and there's other things that you could populate as well, such as quantity. There's a lot of variables or fields that you can populate when you write the custom code. But we'll go over kind of like the bare minimum requirements in the custom code in 1 second. This workflow will also be triggered based on that same property becoming known. So once the update product becomes known, the sales team goes in and changes it on that sidebar. Immediately, both of those workflows are going to run. The first one is going to populate values that we need for the custom code. So the second workflow is actually going to delay for a minute, and it's going to give the deal a chance to go through the other workflow first, get all the correct values, and then it can come through this workflow. So in this action here, we are copying the record ID from the line item. So one really cool feature that HubSpot has recently introduced is the ability to edit available data sources. Essentially, what this allows you to do is pull values from associated objects so that you don't have to do like a daisy chain of workflows passing a value through object to object. You can actually copy that value over into the record itself through the association. So as we can see, we have the line item, the most recently updated line item, and we're going to be pulling the record ID so that we know when we run the custom code that deletes that line item, we know what the record ID is in order to delete it. So we pull that value from the line item. We call that remove line item ID. We then set the quote ID based on this. I do not believe is correct. I think that was pulling from. No, it's correct. Okay. So it should be pulling from the most recently updated quote. That's going to give you the quote ID, which is used in the custom code to unpublish the quote, and then make the change and then republish the quote. So now we have all the values that we need. We have the product ID that we're going to be adding. We have the discount value. We have the line item ID of the line item that we want to remove. And then we have the quote ID as well, so that we can publish and unpublish the quote. So in step 4, we introduce custom code, and I will link to the to this GitHub code right here, and you can copy and paste it into your HubSpot if you have the custom coded actions, and you can run the same code inside of your instance. So the first step is to unpublish the quote. The second step is to delete the line item. The third step is to create and associate a new line item. And then the fourth step is to republish the quote. So you can see all of those broken down here. The first one will unpublish the quote. It'll change it to draft mode. And then the quote ID is the only input. So essentially just a quick breakdown of how the custom coded actions work. In this example, we would want Node.js. So just make sure that that's the language selected because that's what this was written in. And then you would set up your secret. So how you set up a secret is you just do add secret. You would create the secret name, and then inside of your actual HubSpot, you would go to the settings or the gear icon. You would go to integrations. You go to private apps. You can create a private app, and then you can give the scopes of that private app. So whatever you need it to be able to do, just read and write access. And then you'll publish it, and then you can use the access token, which would be viewed here, copy it, and then paste it into the custom code as the secret value, and then give it whatever name it should be. But usually like the default that most people is just the H API key. And then in this example, you need to use the quote ID, which we would use the quote ID property, which is populated right here. That input value then unpublishes the quote and puts it in draft. And you can't actually edit the quote unless it's in draft mode. And the second step, again, is going to delete the line items. So this has several inputs here. It's going to be quote ID, remove line item ID, add product, discount, and then deal ID. And we are just deleting that that line item from the deal and from the quote, or it just deletes it kind of entirely. And then we will add and create the new line item based on the product ID. So this is where all those inputs are used. And then it will set the quantity. The default is 1, but it needs a quantity. And then it would also need the product ID. You do not need a discount, but I've added a discount just to demo. And then the fourth custom code is just to republish it again. And one of the things that you'll notice that's a little weird is it's approval not needed, not published. That's just the default status that's used there. And then one final thing I've done is just to delay for 1 minute. What does that do? It gives the automation time to run, and then it will pull the total contract value from that line item and then update it as the deal amount. So in that example, it's going to update the deal amount to be the proper amount instead of whatever it was set as before. So in this test example, again, it has re-enrollment, so you could do this over and over again, but you're just updating, for example, product 2 to product 3. You can save that. Then you'll actually watch as the deal starts to go down the workflow. So we can see it's going to delay for 1 minute. We can watch as it goes through the delay. We still have 45 seconds. And then once it gets through the delay, it will add those values and then complete the custom code. So I'm going to pause the video. We have 30 more seconds, and I will be back soon. All right, so we have now exited the delay, and if we're quick enough and we refresh, we should catch the quote before it gets published again. Okay, so it's still product 2. We've updated it to product 3. It means it has not ran. Check again really quick. So now we can see it's been put into draft mode. After it's been put into draft mode, what you expect to see is the product will be updated from product 2 to product 3. This will be republished, and then the quote will be updated as well. So now we have it updated to product 3, and then after it's updated to product 3, it should republish itself. And again, we can see it's $150. Originally it was set as $300, and then we have a $150 discount that's been added through the product input workflow. We refresh one more time, and we should see it in its final state, which is the published quote. And there you have it. So now we have product 3, which has been added to both the quote and the deal. And then we have the product 2, which was disassociated. And then the final step would be this should update itself from $100 to $150. So I'm guessing it's still in the delay. Okay, just exited. Yep, and it has updated to 150. So that is let's see. Yeah, there it is. So that's the automation in its entirety. HubSpot doesn't do a great job of allowing a user to control line items and quotes through the native workflow tools. Like a lot of this has to be done through custom code, which is pretty complicated. But if you have a base template like the one that was provided in this GitHub, you can usually take that. And if you're savvy enough with ChatGPT, you can do pretty much anything with it. So I'm continuing to learn, continuing to grow in terms of understanding how the architecture works around the HubSpot products. or the products and line items and deals and quotes and all the financial related aspects of HubSpot. And there's a lot of room that HubSpot has to grow, but there's also a lot that you can do through custom code and API. Really, that's the only way that you can execute a lot of this work. So anybody who has extensive experience with custom code and this aspect of HubSpot, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you find this video valuable, I would love to know, more about what you enjoyed with this video, and hoping to have more custom coded videos in the near future. So thank you. Appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.